Another milestone is reached in the vaccination programme, but there's also a reminder of why it's so urgent. Britain's longest known coronavirus patient has died after suffering 15 terrible months. His wife hopes his fate will serve as a warning to others.
It's a really horrible thing. And to follow the rules, abide by the rules.
Also ahead, jubilant Scotland fans head home after their Euros draw, while England's are dismayed by an opportunity lost. Iran's hardline candidate wins the presidential election. What does it mean for the West and Iran's nuclear ambitions? And the Queen delighted to have a day at the races after missing out last year.
This is ITV News with Duncan Golestani.
Good evening. 18-year-olds in England have been getting vaccinations today for the first time as another crucial milestone is passed in the battle against COVID. But we start the programme with the heartbreaking story of one man who is believed to have been the UK's longest suffering COVID patient. Jason Kelk died yesterday after 15 months of illness. His family hopes his tragic story will serve as a warning to others of the seriousness of the pandemic and the need to protect everyone else from the same awful fate. David Wood reports.
In his 15-month COVID battle, Jason Kelk had many moments of hope, occasionally out of bed and taking tentative steps, seemingly to recovery.
Oh, my flowers are beautiful.
On Valentine's Day and away from the machines, he swapped cards with wife Sue. But for every moment of hope, always a setback. Yesterday, as his condition deteriorated, he asked doctors to turn the machines off that have kept him alive for so long.
Well, I shed tears. I begged him not to. But I think deep down, I know it's the right thing for him. That's what he wants. And it's hard.
The 49-year-old became ill in March last year and since then has spent just 3 days outside of intensive care in Leeds. He developed kidney and heart problems. But as recently as April told ITV News he was hopeful of one day going home again.
I mean everything. To get back to normality. See if I can tell you the efficiencies with Sue.
But COVID denied that, and yesterday Sue had to say goodbye to the man she called the life and soul of her life.
I think he's given hope to a lot of people that have suffered with COVID and the after effects of COVID, and maybe realise that it's a really horrible thing. And to follow the rules, abide by the rules.
For more than a year and often with good humour, Jason fought COVID. But despite his best efforts and his family's constant hope, the virus never let him go from its lethal clutches.
And David joins us now. David, a timely reminder of what COVID can do, but there is some hope today in the vaccination rollout.
Yes, that's right. If you think of it as a race to get all adults offered the jab, we're approaching the home straight now because all over 18s are beginning to get their invites to come forward. In England today, that meant a number of sports stadiums, including West Ham's at the Olympic Park in London, have become makeshift vaccination centres. And there had been concern that because they're less susceptible to the virus, perhaps younger people would be less enthusiastic about getting the vaccine. But judging by these queues, that's proving not to be the case.
And news today of possible changes to self-isolation rules.
Yes, there's a massive study going on to this at the moment, but the government is looking at once people have had both COVID jabs and then come into contact with someone who has the virus, instead of them isolating for 10 days, well, then they could take 10 days worth of quick result tests. If they're negative, then they don't need to isolate. But I must stress, I'm told this is only very early days, but now more and more people are having their jabs. It's signs of the government thinking about changing the rules.
OK, reasons for optimism. David, thank you. There was jubilation long into the early hours of this morning as thousands of Scotland fans celebrated their 0-0 draw against England in the Euros. It keeps alive their hopes of qualifying for the next round of Euro 2020, something they've never achieved before. It was the most watched match of the tournament so far. ITV plus STV's coverage drawing a peak audience of 20 million viewers. But while Scotland's performance at Wembley last night was widely praised, England were booed by fans. And as our sports editor Steve Scott reports, their performance raises some difficult questions about the team.
Scotland! They kept going well into the early hours, celebrating after their team had outsmarted England and earned themselves a tournament lifeline. Heading home, they reflected on a performance that gives them a chance to keep the Euros party going.
I think we could possibly qualify now. I think we did well.
A lot of the English folk we've been speaking to have said that they were surprised at how good we were, so I think that just shows you.
But for Jordan Pickford's reflexes and Reece James' smart positioning, the scoreline could have been very different.
We're not ready to go home yet. We want to extend it, we want to go on, want to go a little bit deeper into the tournament. So as good as the performance was last night against a very good England team, ultimately it means nothing if we're heading home on Wednesdays.
England had chances of their own, but by and large, collectively, they misfired.
Interesting substitution, this.
Individually, too, captain Harry Kane, one of the world's best, is struggling to kickstart his campaign. Overall, it was lacklustre, and the players knew it.
Not every game that we play in this tournament will we be at our fluid and attacking best. But when it's like that, it's important that, like I said, we keep a clean sheet, we take a point and we move on.
When it ended, England fans made their feelings very clear. Being booed by your own fans is never a good look, but England are a long way away from a crisis. Scotland were very good last night. England had a bad day at the office, but they're unbeaten, have yet to concede, and are still favourites to top this group. Nevertheless, Gareth Southgate has some thinking to do. Training today with those who weren't involved yesterday. Will he shuffle his pack or keep faith with those who have rarely failed him and put last night down to just one of those games? Steve Scott, ITV News, Wembley.
The First Minister of Northern Ireland has been told he will be expected to resign when a new leader of his party is chosen. Paul Givan was only officially installed in the post this week, but Edwin Poots was forced to resign as DUP leader on Thursday after an internal party backlash over a deal with Sinn Féin. And following the Liberal Democrats' shock win in the Chesham and Amersham by-election, Boris Johnson is being warned to rethink his controversial planning reforms. Party officials say yesterday's result was a warning shot from voters. The hardline cleric Ibrahim Raisi has won Iran's presidential election. It's a result closely being scrutinised by those in the West, not least over what it means for Iran's nuclear ambitions. From Tehran, Neil Connery reports.
Victory celebrations this evening for supporters of Iran's new hardline president, Ibrahim Raisi. In this Tehran square, they came to savour their triumph. A vote which many Iranians boycotted, seeing it as rigged in Raisi's favour, has silenced the voices of reformists here. Raisi won more than 60% of the vote. Turnout was down almost a quarter from the last time, making it the lowest since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. The winner today met outgoing President Rouhani, symbolising the change of direction. Raisi is the head of judiciary. He's under US sanctions and stands accused of human rights abuses. Analysts say the West will have to do business with him, despite their reservations.
If West in whole wanted to cooperate with Iran, they have to accept Ayatollah Raisi as elected president of Iran, and he is elected of the nation.
Once these celebrations subside, issues like Iran's nuclear deal and regional tensions will need to be urgently addressed. Iranians have a new president, but the challenges remain. With Raisi being a hardliner, the issues between Iran and the West remain as complex as ever. Neil Connery, ITV News, Tehran.
More now on the Euros, and Wales are preparing for another big match, this time against Italy. As Lucy Watson reports from Rome, a draw tomorrow would be enough to send them into the knockout stages of the tournament.
The power and drama of the Eternal City loom large, as Rome's icons of the past look down. A city shut down by the pandemic is now coming back to life, and football is helping it re-emerge. Romans know their city is beautiful and they're happy to share it, but the red shirts of Wales are yet to appear. The players, unburdened by expectations, continue to raise their game.
That's another brilliant ball, and it is in this time!
They excelled on Wednesday night against Turkey.
Advances again, and touches it back for the second goal!
Beating the Crescent Stars 2-0.
It's a piece of brilliance!
So they come to Italy to savour every moment. La Dolce Vita awaits.
Come game day, we know we have the heart. We have a bigger heart than any nation out there, and we'll be giving it all to try and win that game.
Football is a Roman passion, and tonight, as the light faded, Wales trained.
Wales comes to Stadio Olimpico high in confidence, and they'll need it if they're to get a win here tomorrow. Italy is a nation that remains undefeated in its last 29 games, but the Dragons are a team that continue to punch well above its weight.
They play with a sense of freedom and enthusiasm, and have dreams of yet another adventure deep into the European Championships. Lucy Watson, ITV News, Rome.
And finally, with restrictions easing over COVID, many of us are again indulging in our passion for sport, so too for the Queen. Today, for the first time in 2 years, she went horse racing on the final day of Royal Ascot, taking time to inspect some of her own horses, which were also running. And she nearly had a winner. Reach for the Moon, in her purple colours, finished a close second in an early race. Later, Her Majesty watched the day's big attraction.
And it's Dream of Dreams, asleep on the way down, who is in full cry on the way back and wins the Diamond Jubilee. Dream of Dreams for someone.
It was third time lucky for Dream of Dreams in the Diamond Jubilee Stakes. And that is it. The News Where You Are follows in a few moments. I'll be back with the late news at 10:20. Until then, have a very good evening. Bye-bye.